Welcome to this life-changing episode. Today, you are about to witness a powerful and true story that may challenge everything you thought you knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. This is the testimony of a devoted Hindu woman who died, clinically declared lifeless by the medical experts, and yet returned with a message that shook the very foundation of her beliefs. What she encountered in the realm of the afterlife was not a dream, not a hallucination, but a vivid and soul-awakening experience that changed her forever. Her journey was not just spiritual, it was deeply personal, emotional, and transformative. Raised with a strong devotion to her faith, her life was full of rituals, prayer, and tradition. But what she saw after death was something she had never prepared for. This is not just a story about religion. This is a story about truth, about eternity, and about a second chance. It's about a divine encounter that brought her face to face with a reality greater than she could have imagined. In this episode, we will take you on a gripping journey through her life before death, her out-of-body experience, and the shocking visions she encountered in the afterlife. You'll hear in her own words how she was lifted out of her body, taken through realms of darkness and light, and shown the terrifying consequences of deception, and the incredible mercy of a loving Savior. She saw things no human eye should ever see. She heard voices of torment, cries of regret, and at the same time, the overwhelming presence of truth and grace. What she came back with is not just a memory. It's a mission. A warning. A message that must be heard by the world. This is not a message of condemnation, but of hope, a chance to open your heart to what really matters. So, whether you believe in life after death or not, we encourage you to watch this testimony with an open heart. Set aside your preconceptions. Listen not just with your ears, but with your spirit. If this story touches you, and I believe it will, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment below. And subscribe to this channel so you won't miss stories like this that can spark change, healing, and awakening. Someone you know may need to hear this today. Let's walk into this journey together, and see what the afterlife revealed to one woman who came back to tell us the truth.
5 years ago, if you asked me who I was, I would have smiled proudly and said, "My name is Anaya. I am the daughter of Ramesh and Devika Sharma. I am Hindu. I love my gods. I love my family. And I believe that if I do good, good will return to me." I was born in a small village outside Pune, India. Not rich, not poor, just an ordinary family with deep traditions and a deep sense of pride in our beliefs. My father worked hard as a shopkeeper, and my mother stayed home to care for us. We weren't a perfect family, but we were close. Every morning, I would wake to the smell of incense burning in the prayer room. My mother would be chanting softly, her forehead marked with vermilion, her sari neatly wrapped as she prepared the altar. From the age of 5, I was taught the mantras, the songs, the rituals. We had pictures of Lord Shiva, Ganesha, Durga, and others hanging on our wall. I believed in all of them with all my heart. I fasted during holy festivals. I offered flowers, lit lamps, and even skipped meals to please the gods. I believed if I honored them, they would protect me and bless my future. In school, I was average. Not the smartest. Not the most popular. But I was known for being disciplined and respectful. My teachers liked me because I followed rules. At home, I helped my mother in the kitchen. I prayed twice a day. I tried not to lie. I touched the feet of my elders and washed my hands before eating. I wanted to be the daughter my parents could be proud of. But under all of this, there was a quiet ache growing in me. It started when I turned 17. My older brother, Oriv, left home. He had an argument with my father and never came back. We heard later that he had joined another faith, but my father forbade us from speaking his name. My mother cried every night for months. I didn't understand it then, but something broke in our home after that. I tried harder to be perfect. I thought maybe if I prayed more, everything would be okay again. I started going to the temple almost every day. I would bow before the idols until my forehead turned red. I would cry in front of them, asking them to fix our family. But they remained still. Silent. Their eyes were made of stone. And though I told myself they were listening, I began to feel like I was speaking into empty space. Then came the sickness. It started with simple fatigue. I thought I was just tired from overwork. But soon, it became more than that. My body began to ache. I started losing weight rapidly. I had fevers that came and went without explanation. Doctors couldn't find anything specific. They gave me tablets, but nothing worked. I still remember the fear in my father's eyes when he saw me one morning unable to get out of bed. He brought more incense, more flowers. My mother brought in a priest who chanted over me. They said perhaps a spirit had entered our home, or karma from a past life was being repaid. I believed them. But I was growing weaker. The worst part wasn't the pain. It was the feeling of being abandoned by the very gods I had loved since childhood. I begged them in tears. Please, I whispered in the dark one night. If I've done wrong, forgive me. Show me what to do. But again, silence. Nothing changed. One day, while I was lying on my cot near the window, I suddenly felt an unbearable pressure in my chest. My mother was in the kitchen, and I remember trying to call her name, but no sound came out. The light in the room dimmed, even though the sun was shining outside. I couldn't breathe. My hands went cold. My vision blurred. The room began to spin slowly, not wildly, just like the world was slipping away from me. I could hear my heart slowing down. I knew something was wrong. I tried to move, to scream, to cry, but I couldn't do any of it. My body was shutting down. I felt like I was falling inside myself, like the air between me and the world was being pulled away. The last thing I remember before everything went dark was my mother's scream from the hallway. I had stopped breathing. My spirit had left. I had died. But that was only the beginning. What I saw next, what I felt, where I went, and who I met changed everything I believed. Every single thing. This is my story. Not one I made up. Not a tale to impress anyone. This is the truth. And it all began the moment I died. The moment my spirit left my body, I didn't realize I was dead. At first, there was just a strange stillness. Everything around me froze. The noise in the house, the sound of my mother's footsteps, the distant voice of a neighbor, everything went quiet. It wasn't like falling asleep. It was like stepping out of time itself. My body lay on that old wooden cot near the window, but I was no longer inside it. I didn't feel pain anymore. No more burning in my chest. No more trembling. Just stillness, and then something else. Something I had never felt before. I was suddenly above the room. Not metaphorically, literally. I was floating, looking down. I saw my own body. My lips were slightly parted. My hands were limp. My mother had dropped the pot she was holding. It shattered on the floor. She screamed my name and rushed to my side. I watched as she shook me, slapped my cheeks, and tried to get a response. Nothing happened. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was watching it all like someone observing a scene from a rooftop, yet I felt everything emotionally. The sadness. The confusion. But I couldn't touch anything. Couldn't speak. Couldn't move in the way I once knew. And then, I saw them coming in. My father, wide-eyed and pale. A neighbor. A man from the temple. My mother is crying, louder now. They laid my body on the ground. Someone tried CPR. Someone was calling the local clinic. Everyone was shouting. But it all felt distant. Like their voices were underwater. Like I was separated by a thick, invisible veil. I remember thinking, why are they panicking? I'm right here. But I wasn't. I was no longer part of their world. Then it happened. The room darkened, not like the sun setting, but like a shadow moving in from every direction. The walls dissolved. The ceiling disappeared. What surrounded me wasn't my home anymore. I was no longer hovering in my bedroom. I was being pulled upward, but not like flying. It was like being carried by something unseen, firm, yet gentle. The air around me was thick, not with wind, but with a presence. I can't explain it in words. It was like the atmosphere was alive. Suddenly, I was in a tunnel. Not made of bricks or stone, but of light and space. It stretched endlessly, and I could see a brilliant brightness far ahead. The tunnel was not empty. There were sounds, voices, faint but distinct. Some were crying. Others were screaming. I couldn't see anyone at first, just shadows that flickered along the edges. The tunnel had sides, and within those walls I sensed things, stories, memories, pain. I was moving fast, faster than anything I've ever felt, but there was no wind, no pressure. Just speed and silence. Then, something shifted. The light ahead was growing, but I also began to feel a strange tension pulling at me from behind. I turned, or maybe I didn't physically turn, I can't be sure, but I became aware of something darker behind me. A weight. A presence that was heavy and cold. It was like two forces were now pulling on me, one drawing me toward the light, the other trying to pull me back or drag me down. That's when I saw them. Figures. At first, they looked like shadows, tall and thin, lining the sides of the tunnel. Their eyes were empty, hollow, watching. Some whispered things I couldn't understand. Others reached toward me, but they could not touch me. I was protected. I don't know how, I just knew I was being held in place by something greater than them. But I could feel their hatred, their sorrow, their torment. They were not like the deities I had prayed to. These were not gods. These were souls, lost, broken, angry. Some of them cried out in languages I didn't understand. Others were silent, but their silence screamed louder than any words. I began to tremble. Not from fear, but from the realization that I was seeing something real. Something hidden from the living. I looked ahead again, and this time the light changed. It wasn't just bright, it was alive. It had no shape, but it radiated warmth and authority. As I drew closer, the figures behind me faded. The cold lifted. And then, as I neared the heart of that light, I felt something I had never known in all my years of fasting, praying, or chanting. Peace. Not the kind that comes from silence or rest, but the kind that feels like being truly known. I was being seen. Every part of me. My failures. My pride. My fears. My doubts. My secret thoughts. Everything was open before this light. But instead of shame, I felt a love so pure it made me weep. I didn't see a throne. I didn't see a man with a beard. But I knew, deep in my soul, that this light was a being. A person. Holy. Pure. Righteous. And for the first time, I realized this was not the presence of Shiva, or Durga, or Krishna. This was someone entirely different. And then I heard a voice, not through my ears, but inside every part of me. A voice that held both power and mercy. It said only one thing. Anaya, why are you so far from me? That question pierced through everything I thought I knew. It shattered every answer I could have given. I had no defense. No excuses. I wept, not because I was accused, but because I finally saw myself as I really was. I knew then I wasn't in the presence of a god I had created with my hands. I was in the presence of the one who created me. And yet, there was more to see. My journey was not over. Something was about to be shown to me that would change the way I saw eternity, forever. I don't know how long I stood in that tunnel, held in the warmth of the light. Time didn't seem to move the way it does on Earth. Every moment felt like forever, and yet everything was happening so quickly. The light that had embraced me, that had spoken to me, began to pull back, not in rejection, but as if preparing me to see something I needed to understand. Then everything changed. The warmth faded. The glow around me dimmed. I was no longer surrounded by peace. The tunnel dissolved. The atmosphere thickened like smoke and the silence was replaced by sound, horrible, gut-wrenching sound. Screaming. Groaning. Weeping that didn't stop. I didn't walk toward this place, I was taken there. Carried, not by force, but as though I was being shown something that had to be seen. Before me stretched a place so dark, I could barely make out its shape. But what I could see, I will never forget. The ground beneath me cracked and bled with heat. It wasn't soil or stone. It was alive, pulsing with fire that didn't give light, only pain. Flames shot up from fissures, but they gave no warmth, only torment. And the smell, it was unbearable. Not like anything on earth. It was the stench of decay, despair, and something spiritual, like the scent of everything good being burned away. There were beings there, people, but no longer like you and me. Souls. Naked, broken, covered in shadow and anguish. Their mouths open in endless screams, their hands stretched out in regret. Some tried to climb out of pits. Others crawled in circles. Some wept while gnashing their teeth, as if trying to bite their own tongues to escape the agony. But no escape came. One woman screamed over and over, "I didn't know. I didn't know." Another kept clutching an idol, a tiny elephant figurine, but it was melting in her hands, burning her, yet she wouldn't let go. She sobbed and cried out to it, but it gave her nothing. Then it dissolved into ash, and her wail echoed through the air. I saw idols everywhere, massive statues of gods I once prayed to. They were falling, crumbling. The stone was cracking, their eyes bleeding black liquid. Some were laughing. Yes, laughing, mocking the very people who worshipped them. I watched one spirit bowing before a golden image, begging for help, only for the image to collapse on him with a weight he couldn't bear. The air vibrated with voices mocking the lost lies once believed, now exposed for what they really were. I stood trembling. I covered my ears. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. Then came the worst moment. Some of the souls turned to me. Their faces, oh God, their faces. Twisted in sorrow. They looked at me as if I could help them. Some recognized me. I don't know how, I didn't know them on earth, but they knew me. One cried out, "Why didn't you tell me?" Another shouted, "You had the truth, you knew. You saw the light." I wept. I wept with every part of me. I didn't have the answers they needed. Then a voice thundered, not like the gentle one I'd heard before, but the same voice now filled with justice. This is what deception brings. This is where truth is rejected. I fell to my knees. I realized then, this place wasn't made for people. It was made for the enemy, for those who rebelled against truth. But people were here, by their own choice. Not because they weren't loved, but because they refused that love. I wanted to leave. I wanted to beg for mercy, not for myself, but for them. And then, everything shifted again. From the edge of the blackness, a light broke through. Not a beam. Not a flicker. But a presence. Pure. Radiant. It didn't just light up the darkness, it exposed it. The torment fled from it. The flames recoiled. The screaming paused. And I knew he had come. He wasn't a glowing statue. He wasn't a god from our temples. He didn't carry a weapon. He didn't ride an animal. But he had authority, majesty, holiness, power. And yet, he was kind. His eyes met mine. And in that one look, I felt everything: love, sorrow, understanding, and a deep sadness. He wasn't angry with me. He was grieving for the souls, for the deception, for what could have been. He reached out his hand toward me, not physically, but spiritually, and when he did, I saw scars on his palms. Scars. That's when I knew. This was Jesus. I had never spoken his name. I had never believed he was real. I thought he was just the God of foreigners. But at that moment, I knew. He was not one God among many. He was the truth. The way. Life. The light I had seen earlier was him. I collapsed. I wept uncontrollably. I whispered, "I didn't know. I didn't know it was you." And he spoke, not with judgment, but with unspeakable compassion. "You were mine, even when you didn't know me. But you must return. Your time is not yet." I pleaded with him. "Please don't send me back. I want to stay. I want to be with you." But he only repeated, "They need to hear. Go. Tell them what you've seen." At that moment, I was consumed by light. Not burned, transformed. I felt love flood into me like fire. And then, I fell. I fell fast. Back through the tunnel. Back through the veil. Back into the weight of my body. And when I opened my eyes again, I was back on that cot, gasping for air, my mother's hand gripping mine, and the room echoing with cries of shock and joy. But I wasn't the same. I had died. I had seen eternity. And now, I had to tell the world the truth. The return was not peaceful. When I left the presence of Jesus, I felt like a part of me had been torn from home. The light that had held me, the warmth that surrounded me, The overwhelming love I didn't want to leave. But when he said, "Go," I knew I had no choice. His words were not suggestions. They were truth. And with that truth came a force, a pulling, rushing, unstoppable force. In an instant, I was falling. I can't describe the speed. It was like being pulled through a storm of wind and pressure, through layers of darkness, space, and memory. I could hear echoes of my own voice, my cries, the screams of the tormented, and then silence. And then pain. Unimaginable, searing, crushing pain. I opened my eyes with a violent gasp. My chest heaved like I had been underwater for hours. My throat burned. My head felt like it was splitting in two. I couldn't move at first. My limbs were stiff. I blinked rapidly, and light pierced through my vision like knives. I heard screaming. But not from me. My mother. She screamed my name and dropped to her knees beside me. My father stood frozen at the doorway, his hands trembling. A neighbor backed away slowly as if he'd seen a ghost. Another woman was chanting a mantra just moments before but had now fallen silent in shock. I was back. But I was not whole. Doctors had been called. One of them had already declared me gone. They said I had no pulse. No breath. For several minutes, I was lifeless. And now, here I was, sitting up slowly, coughing, trying to breathe, weeping without knowing why. One of the men pressed his fingers against my wrist and looked up with wide eyes. "She's alive," he whispered. "Her pulse, it's back." Another slapped my cheeks gently, trying to keep me awake. My mother just kept crying, "Anaya, Anaya, what happened? Where did you go? What happened to you?" I wanted to answer, but my voice was gone. Only broken breaths came out. In the days that followed, my body felt like it had been crushed and put back together. I couldn't walk for 2 days. I slept for hours at a time. Food made me nauseous. The lights felt too bright. It sounds too loud. And my mind was spinning. Because everything I had seen was real. I didn't dream of it. I didn't imagine it. I had been there. I had stood in the very presence of the one true God. I had witnessed the torment of the lost. I had been told the truth. And I had been sent back with a mission. But how could I explain this to anyone? My family was grateful I was alive, but when I tried to tell them what I saw, they dismissed it. "It was a vision from our gods," one uncle said. "You were hovering between lives," said another. But I knew better. I knew what I saw. I didn't see reincarnation. I didn't see the river of karma. I didn't see the gods I had served my whole life. I saw Jesus. I didn't even know his name until he said it to me in my heart. I didn't know the Bible. I had never read a single verse. But now, I was filled with a truth I couldn't escape. And in the silence of the night, when the house was dark and my body ached, I whispered to him, "Are you still with me?" And in the stillness, deep in my soul, I felt him say, "I never left." That's when the confusion began to lift. The questions didn't all go away, but something deeper replaced them: clarity, peace, purpose. I had come back from the dead not just to live again, but to live differently. To speak, to warn, to tell the truth that so many don't know, or refuse to believe. I knew my journey had just begun. When I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, I was no longer the woman they once knew. My body was weak, trembling, and every breath felt like I was inhaling both fire and ice. But inside, I felt alive in a way I had never known before. I wasn't just revived, I was reborn. 4 days, I didn't speak. Not because I didn't want to, but because of the weight of what I saw, what I knew. It silenced me. My family sat by my side, thinking I was still recovering from the fever, the convulsions, the clinical death the doctors couldn't explain. But inside me, something far greater than medicine had occurred. And then, one morning, I asked for a Bible. My mother froze. My sister dropped the spoonful of porridge she had been feeding me. My father stood and walked out of the room without saying a word. That single request, simple, quiet, shook the foundation of my household. And when I told them what I saw in the afterlife, how I met a man in white who shone brighter than the sun, how I saw idols burning and people crying out for truth, they couldn't bear it. "You must have had a nightmare," my uncle insisted. "This is from the medicine." But I knew what I saw. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a vision from the mind. It was real. More real than this world, more real than my own breath. I had come face to face with the truth, and he had a name, one I had never dared to utter as a Hindu woman growing up: Jesus. I began praying to him secretly, not chanting mantras, not bowing to statues, but speaking, from my heart, like a daughter speaks to a loving father. The peace that came over me in those moments was the same peace I felt in that radiant presence in the afterlife. The backlash came quickly. Relatives stopped visiting. My father refused to speak to me. Rumors spread in the neighborhood that I had gone mad, that demons had possessed me, that I had turned against our culture. But for every harsh word thrown at me, I remembered the cries of the souls in that place of torment, and I couldn't stay silent. I started to share my story with anyone who would listen. Quietly at first, with friends, cousins, even strangers in the marketplace. And then bolder, speaking in small gatherings, telling women who had spent their whole lives worshipping idols that there is one who hears, who saves, who loves. I didn't know everything. I couldn't answer every question. But I had seen the truth with my own eyes. I had touched eternity. And I knew I had to warn others, those still lost in rituals and fear, those who bowed to gods who neither speak nor see. There was a time I would have never dared to speak against what I once called holy. But now, I see clearly, what we thought was sacred was only shadow. The real light, the one who welcomed me in that realm, was not a religion, not a statue, not an idea. He was alive. And he is still calling others. That's why I share this today. Not for attention. Not to stir division. But because I love my people and I want them to know what I know now. I was once blind. Now I see. And the truth must be told.
What you've just witnessed is not a myth, not a hallucination, and certainly not a made-up tale to stir emotions. This is the true and powerful testimony of a Hindu woman who died, crossed into eternity, and returned with a message too urgent to ignore. Her experience shattered every belief she once held and opened her eyes to the terrifying and beautiful realities that await beyond the grave. She saw the fire. She heard the screams. She stood in the place of torment where souls cried out in regret and agony. She watched idols melt into nothingness, exposed as lifeless and powerless. And then, in the midst of that darkness, she encountered a blinding, glorious light, the presence of one who radiated love, truth, and power. That encounter changed everything. Now, she speaks not from religion, but from revelation. She speaks with boldness, because she knows the truth, and the truth cannot be silenced. Her story is a warning and a gift. It is a wake-up call to all who are still searching, still trapped in rituals, traditions, or unbelief. Life is fragile. Death is certain. Eternity is real. The only question that remains is this: are you ready? With tear-filled eyes and a trembling voice, she pleads with the world, if I had not died, I would have never known. But now I cannot be silent. I beg you. Don't wait until it's too late. Call out to the one who saved me. He is real. He is waiting for you. If you feel something stirring in your heart right now, know this: it's not emotion. It's the truth calling to you. You can respond right here, right now. You don't need rituals, incense, or religious performances. You need only to believe, to turn your heart toward the one who holds eternal life in his hands. Below is a simple prayer. If it reflects your heart, speak it sincerely. Let it be your step into a new life. Jesus, I believe you are real. I believe you died and rose again. I turn away from every false god, and I choose to follow you. Forgive me, cleanse me, and lead me into truth. I give you my life. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, know this: you are no longer alone. This is not the end, this is the beginning. A new journey has started. A journey into light, peace, and eternal hope. Before you leave, do one final, powerful act: share this story. Someone else needs to hear it. Someone's eternity may depend on it. Subscribe to this channel, Mysterious Uplift, so you never miss another testimony that could change a life. Leave a comment below saying, I choose truth. This isn't just a video. It's a divine encounter. From death to life, the truth sets us free. Subscribe. Share. Believe. Eternity starts today.